The awakening of humanity's legacy. The red dwarf star loomed low in the sky, casting an eerie, blood-like glow over the craggy terrain of Novera. Beneath its unforgiving surface, a hidden city thrummed with quiet determination. Humanity had become a race of shadows, a whisper in the universe, but shadows have teeth. Amelia Chen inhaled the thin, bitter air at the city's entrance, her breath crystallizing in the cold. From her vantage point, she could see the barren horizon stretching endlessly, devoid of life, as though the planet had swallowed hope whole. Her hands, roughened by years of labor and leadership, gripped the edges of her cloak as the icy wind howled past. Somewhere below, the pulse of machinery echoed, humanity's heartbeat, mechanical yet fragile. Director Chen, a crackling voice buzzed in her earpiece, yanking her from her reverie. "You need to see this." Immediately, Amelia descended into the underground city, the hum of its vast caverns growing louder with each step. Here, survivors of Earth's apocalypse had scraped together an existence over 3,000 grueling years. The people she passed bore the weight of that history in their eyes. Engineers, farmers, soldiers, they all labored under the unspoken agreement that survival wasn't enough. Not anymore. Dr. Zara Okoye stood at the center of a newly excavated chamber, her excitement palpable. In front of her, half buried in the rock, was an object gleaming faintly under the work lights. A sleek metal cylinder, its surface etched with ancient human symbols, was unlike anything they'd unearthed before. "It's human," Zara said, her voice trembling as though she'd uncovered a relic of the divine. "Predates the Exodus by over a century. I think it's a time capsule." Amelia's heart raced, a rhythm echoing the faint pulse of machinery around her. A time capsule. Here, in this desolation. Her fingers brushed the cylinder's cold surface as Zara activated the mechanism. With a hiss of air, the top slid open. What emerged was not a dusty artifact, but a hologram. A woman's face, lined with age but fierce with purpose. Her gray-streaked hair framed eyes brimming with both sorrow and defiance. The chamber fell silent as the hologram spoke. "If you are seeing this," the projection began, "then humanity has survived." Amelia's breath caught. Survivors, yes, but to hear it spoken as a declaration, as hope instead of resignation, was jarring. "I am Dr. Samantha Reeves," the hologram continued, her voice steadied despite the weight of her words. "Lead scientist of Project Phoenix. What I'm about to tell you will rewrite everything you know about our history and our place in the galaxy." The air grew electric as the room's occupants leaned in. For the next hour, Reeves recounted a tale of betrayal and resilience. The Galactic Council, the so-called mentors of emerging civilizations, had viewed humanity not as equals, but as a threat. Our rapid technological advancements, our unpredictable nature, it terrified them. They had conspired, decided in secret, to annihilate Earth and erase humanity before we could rise to challenge their dominion. "It wasn't a misunderstanding," Reeves declared, her voice tightening. "It wasn't an accident. It was extermination." The chamber seemed to shrink under the weight of her words. Generations of humans had lived believing the destruction of Earth had been their fault, that their arrogance had provoked the Council's wrath. To learn it was a cold, calculated decision, turned anger into something more potent, resolve. Reeves gestured, and from the capsule emerged a crystalline cube, glowing faintly. "This is Phoenix," she said. "It holds the sum total of humanity's scientific, technological, and cultural knowledge up to the moment of Earth's destruction. With it, you can rebuild everything we lost. But more than that, you can fight back." As the hologram faded, the chamber was silent except for the low hum of the cube. Amelia stared at it, the weight of its promise pressing down on her. For the first time in centuries, humanity had more than survival. They had a purpose, the decision to rise. In the weeks that followed, Phoenix became the center of Novera's revival. The AI within the cube spoke with a clarity and precision that astonished Amelia and her team. It didn't just provide answers. It offered visions of a future where humanity wasn't merely enduring but thriving. The colony's scientists marveled at the treasures Phoenix revealed. Faster than light drives that made their current ships seem like stone wheels, energy weapons capable of cutting through the strongest shields, and medical technologies that could extend lifespans indefinitely. But it was the archives of Earth's history that struck Amelia hardest. She spent hours immersed in the records, watching the oceans and forests of a world she had only heard of in stories, cities that reached into the clouds, cultures so vibrant they seemed alive even through the cold glow of holograms. She wept for a world she'd never known. One evening, alone in her quarters, Amelia replayed Reeves's final words. "You can fight back." She whispered them aloud, testing their weight. They were not the reckless cry of vengeance she had expected. Instead, they felt like a challenge, an invitation to reclaim what had been stolen, not just Earth, but humanity's dignity, its potential. By the time she addressed the colony's governing council, her resolve had solidified into steel. "For too long, we've hidden," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. "We've scraped by, content to survive on the fringes, but we are more than this. We have the means to rebuild, to take back our place among the stars." A skeptical elder stood, his weathered face etched with doubt. "And if we're discovered? If the council finds us before we're ready?" Amelia's eyes burned with determination. "They feared us once for a reason, and they should fear us again. Humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to adapt, to innovate. We won't just survive. We'll thrive. And when the time comes, we'll show the galaxy what it means to be human." The room erupted in heated debate, voices rising and falling like waves crashing against an unyielding shore. But Amelia's conviction held firm, rippling outward like a beacon. As the meeting adjourned, she allowed herself a single moment of reflection. She stood once more at the entrance to the underground city, the barren landscape unchanged. Yet something beneath her feet had shifted. The pulse of machinery felt stronger, faster, the heartbeat of a species awakening to its destiny. The shadows were growing teeth, and soon the galaxy would know. The Phoenix rises. The dim hum of Novera's underground chambers echoed with renewed energy as Phoenix came alive. The quantum eye quickly became the colony's lifeline, an endless well of knowledge that stretched back to the days before Earth's fall. In every lab, workshop, and training ground, Phoenix's influence could be felt, transforming the once fragmented remnants of humanity into something far more formidable. Amelia Chen stood at the center of the colony's research hub, her gaze fixed on a projection of Earth, blue, green, and white, a stark contrast to Novera's lifeless reds and grays. Around her, engineers, scientists, and strategists hustled, their voices buzzing with urgency. The energy was infectious, a stark departure from the despair that had long gripped the colony. For the first time in generations, the future felt possible. Reclaiming knowledge. "Director Chen, you'll want to see this," said Dr. Zara Okoy, her eyes alight with discovery. Amelia followed her to a large console where streams of data cascaded across the holographic screen. Zara pointed at a design schematics file, labeled FTL Drive Mickey AX. "This," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper, "is a faster-than-light drive that can outpace anything in the Council's fleet. It's not just efficient, it's undetectable during travel." Amelia's breath hitched. "How soon can we start?" "Blueprints are already being analyzed," Zara replied. "We'll need to retrofit our ships, but Phoenix is helping us automate the process." It wasn't just propulsion. Phoenix revealed breakthroughs across every field. Energy weapons capable of tearing through the Council's defenses, defensive systems that rendered their colonies invisible, and medical advancements that could triple human lifespans. The discoveries sparked a fire in Novera's engineers and scientists. Laboratories became sanctuaries of invention. Workshops became crucibles of progress. Amelia walked the halls, watching as once-worn tools were replaced with cutting-edge machinery. She stopped to observe a team of young engineers assembling a prototype weapon, a sleek, compact rifle that could disintegrate its target without collateral damage. They spoke with pride, their eyes gleaming with determination. "This is just the beginning," one of them said, her voice firm. "We'll make sure they never take us by surprise again." Rebuilding culture. While technology surged forward, Phoenix also began to mend the fractures in humanity's identity. Stored within its crystalline structure was a vast archive of Earth's cultural history, art, literature, music, and philosophies. Amelia spent long nights alone, watching holograms of ancient cities, listening to symphonies that echoed through the corridors of memory, and reading poetry that spoke of hope and despair. She wasn't the only one. Across Novera, Phoenix became a storyteller, weaving humanity's past into its present. Children gathered in classrooms to watch holograms of Earth's ecosystems, lush forests, coral reefs, and sprawling savannas, while their teachers explained what had been lost. Artists found inspiration in these archives, painting murals of Earth on the cold, gray walls of the underground city. One night, Amelia visited the newly erected Hall of Memory, a chamber dedicated to Earth's legacy. She stood before a holographic projection of the planet, spinning slowly as it once had, and whispered, "We will honor you." The proposal. 2 months after Phoenix's activation, Amelia called a meeting of Novera's governing council. The chamber was packed with scientists, engineers, military leaders, and community representatives. Holograms of Phoenix's advancements glimmered in the air, each one a testament to the potential that lay before them. Amelia stood at the center, her voice calm yet commanding. "For 3,000 years, we've lived in hiding, scraping by on the edges of existence. But now we have a choice to make. We can rebuild, not just our technology, but our civilization. And when the time is right, we can reclaim our place in the galaxy." The room buzzed with murmurs of agreement and skepticism. One elder stood, his face lined with age and doubt. Rebuild for what? To face the council and risk everything. They destroyed us once. They could do it again. Amelia met his gaze, unflinching. They destroyed us because they feared us. And they were right to fear us. Humanity's strength has always been our ability to adapt, innovate, and persevere. This time, they won't take us by surprise. This time, we'll be ready. The debate raged for hours, voices rising and falling like the tides. Some argue for caution, believing Novera's newfound knowledge should be used to build a safe and isolated future. Others pushed for action, their eyes burning with the fire of vengeance. In the end, a compromise was reached. Humanity would prepare in secret, building its strength while gathering intelligence on the Council's weaknesses. The first steps. As the Council adjourned, Amelia stood alone at the entrance of the city, gazing once more at the barren expanse of Novera. In her hands, she held a small data pad, its screen glowing faintly with a map of the galaxy. Phoenix's projections highlighted key systems, potential allies, and hidden weaknesses within the Council's vast network. Below her feet, Novera's underground factories hummed to life. Engineers worked around the clock, retrofitting old ships with the advanced FTL drives and constructing new vessels designed for stealth and precision. Scientists tested energy weapons and shields, their breakthroughs fueling a growing arsenal. Young recruits trained in simulated battlefields, their faces set with grim determination. As she turned to head back inside, Amelia's earpiece crackled. "Director Chen," came the voice of Captain Alexei Volkov. "The Nightshade is ready for deployment." Amelia allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had waited 3,000 years for this moment. Now, the shadows they had lived in for so long would become their greatest weapon. "We begin," she replied. "Make them remember us." The shadows of vengeance. Deep within Novera's hidden city, the sleek silhouette of the Nightshade loomed in its underground hangar. Humanity's most advanced stealth vessel, the ship embodied the culmination of Phoenix's knowledge and Novera's ingenuity. Its matte black surface shimmered faintly under the dim lights, a phantom built for precision and secrecy. Captain Alexei Volkov stood on the bridge of the Nightshade, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. His sharp eyes scanned the data streams as his crew finalized pre-departure checks. This mission would mark humanity's first step beyond Novera in centuries, the first whisper of their resurgence. Cloaking system online, reported Lieutenant Zoran Chen, Amelia's daughter and second in command. Her voice was steady, but Alexei could see the fire in her eyes, a mix of determination and pride. She represented a generation raised on stories of Earth's glory and the Council's betrayal, a generation ready to reclaim what was lost. All systems green, Captain, Zoran confirmed. Alexei nodded, his voice gravelly. Then let's show the galaxy we're not ghosts. The first mission. As the Nightshade slipped silently from its hidden hangar, its cloaking system rendered it invisible against the star-studded expanse. Its destination, a Galactic Council outpost on the fringe of their territory. The crew's objective was simple: gather intelligence on ship movements, communication protocols, and defenses. Every detail they collected would strengthen Novera's ability to strike when the time came. The journey was tense but uneventful, the Nightshade gliding undetected through space. On the bridge, Zoran monitored the cloaking field, while Alexei reviewed Phoenix's provided data on the outpost. "It's a relay station," Alexei explained to the crew, his voice low. "Handles communications for 3 council sectors. If we can tap into their network, we'll have eyes and ears across half their territory." The crew worked in synchronized silence, each member an expert in their field. The mission demanded perfection. One mistake could expose humanity's return too soon. As they neared the outpost, the station's massive structure came into view, a sprawling array of antennae and docking bays, floating serenely against the darkness. Approaching target, Zoran announced, her fingers dancing over her console. "Cloaking field stable." "Deploy the probe," Alexei ordered. A small, stealth-equipped drone launched from the Nightshade, its thrusters silent as it approached the station. The crew watched intently as the probe latched onto the outpost's exterior and began transmitting data back to the ship. Discovering weaknesses, back on Novera, Amelia and her team pored over the information the Nightshade transmitted. The Council's communication networks were intricate but outdated compared to Phoenix's capabilities. Patterns emerged in ship deployments, highlighting vulnerabilities the Council had likely overlooked. They'd grown complacent, Amelia murmured, her brow furrowed as she studied the data. Their fleet movements are predictable. They're not prepared for an enemy that can outthink them. Zara Okoye, standing at her side, nodded. It aligns with Phoenix's analysis. The Council's dominance has made them overconfident. They'd forgotten what it means to face real resistance. Amelia's lips pressed into a thin line. "Let's remind them." The contact. Amelia's thoughts were interrupted by a new report from one of Novera's deep cover agents operating in Council space. The agent had made contact with a resistance cell of Aruri, an enslaved race of engineers renowned for their brilliance. Mentioned in Phoenix's archives, the Aruri had been subjugated shortly after humanity's fall, their technological prowess exploited to fuel the Council's empire. "They're eager to meet with us," the agent's message read. "They've heard of humanity's survival. They want to fight." Amelia's heart raced as she read the report. An alliance with the Aruri could be the turning point humanity needed. She summoned her top advisors to discuss the opportunity. "The Aruri's expertise is legendary," Zara said during the meeting. "If we combine their skills with Phoenix's knowledge, our technological edge could become insurmountable." Admiral Helen Vega, Novera's newly appointed fleet commander, was more cautious. "It's a risk," she said, her tone measured. "If the Council catches wind of this meeting, they'll retaliate. Hard." Amelia nodded, acknowledging the danger. "We can't fight this war alone. If we're going to stand a chance, we need allies. Arrange a secure meeting. I want our best diplomats on this." The turning tide. While preparations for the Aruri meeting got underway, Novera continued to transform. The underground shipyards buzzed with activity as new vessels were constructed at an unprecedented pace. The flagship Nemesis, a behemoth of advanced engineering, was nearly complete. Its hull gleamed under the floodlights, a stark contrast to the utilitarian designs of Novera's older ships. Chief Engineer Raj Patel stood with Admiral Vega, his voice filled with pride. The Nemesis isn't just a ship, it's a statement. It says humanity is back, and we're not hiding anymore. Vega nodded, her gaze fixed on the ship. Let's hope we don't have to prove it too soon. Elsewhere, training simulations pushed the colony's recruits to their limits. Virtual battlefields replicated scenarios they might face in the coming conflict, instilling discipline and resilience. Zoran, between missions on the Nightshade, joined the drills, earning the respect of her peers for her tenacity and skill. Amelia watched it all with a mixture of pride and unease. They were preparing for war, a war that could either free humanity or destroy them entirely. The stakes had never been higher. A fateful departure. The Nightshade returned to Novera undetected, its mission a success. The intelligence it gathered provided critical insights into the Council's operations, bolstering humanity's plans. But the time for covert observation was over. The meeting with the Aruri loomed, and it could not be conducted from the shadows. As the diplomatic vessel prepared to depart, Amelia stood on the platform, watching as supplies and personnel were loaded. She felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Zoran approached, her expression serious. "Are you sure about this, Mother? The risks." Amelia cut her off gently. "The risks are worth it. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about everyone the Council has oppressed. If we can bring the Aruri to our side, it will change everything." Zoran nodded, her resolve matching her mother's. "Then let's make it happen." As the ship lifted off, Amelia gazed up at the star-filled sky. For the first time in centuries, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were moving forward. The shadows of vengeance had begun their march, and soon, the galaxy would know what it meant to face humanity's potential. The alliance forged. The diplomatic vessel glided through the void of space, its stealth systems activated to ensure it remained undetected. Aboard the ship, Amelia Chen stood at the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Her mind raced with the possibilities and the risks of the upcoming meeting. For centuries, humanity had been isolated. Now, they were reaching out, taking the first steps toward unity with another species. The destination was a neutral system far from both Novera and Galactic Council territory. The Aruri, a race subjugated by the Council, had chosen the location for its strategic obscurity. Amelia knew the stakes. If this meeting succeeded, humanity would gain an invaluable ally. If it failed, they risked exposure. A historic meeting. The ship arrived in the designated system, where an Aruri diplomatic vessel waited. The Aruri ship was a marvel of organic design, its hull shimmering like a living exoskeleton. Amelia and her delegation, including Dr. Zara Okoy and Captain Alexei Volkov, boarded a shuttle to dock with the alien craft. The Aruri delegation was waiting in the meeting chamber, their appearance both fascinating and intimidating. Their iridescent exoskeletons refracted light into a cascade of colors, while their multifaceted eyes gleamed with intelligence. Their leader, a towering figure with intricate carvings etched into their armor-like body, stepped forward. "We had thought your kind extinct," the Aruri leader said, their voice rendered into smooth English by a translator. "To find you alive and thriving. It is both a surprise and a hope." Amelia inclined her head respectfully. "We've endured much, as have you. The Council has wronged us both, but together, we have a chance to change that." The negotiations began. For hours, the two delegations shared stories of suffering under the Council's iron fist. The Aruri recounted how their advanced engineering skills had been exploited to fuel the Council's war machines, while humanity spoke of Earth's destruction and their struggle to survive. Trust was not given lightly, but a shared desire for freedom formed the foundation of their alliance. Shared knowledge. The Aruri were astonished by the technology Phoenix had enabled humanity to rebuild. Amelia presented a holographic projection of the Nemesis, humanity's flagship, along with the graviton bomb and other advanced weaponry under development. The Aruri, in turn, revealed their own innovations: energy-efficient shielding systems, advanced propulsion mechanisms, and intricate repair drones. Dr. Zura Okoi and the Aruri chief engineer spoke excitedly, their minds sparking with ideas. "If we combine our shielding tech with your propulsion systems," Zura suggested, "we could create ships that are not only fast, but nearly impossible to detect." The Aruri engineer clicked in agreement, their translator conveying their thoughts. "It is a union that could defy the Council's supremacy. Together, we will craft vessels that the galaxy has never seen." Building the coalition. As the negotiations progressed, the Aruri leader made an unexpected declaration. "You are not alone in your fight," they said. "There are others, species who chafe under the Council's rule, but fear their wrath too much to rise. If we spread word of humanity's survival, they may join us." Amelia's heart surged with hope, but tempered it with caution. "If we move too quickly, the Council will retaliate before we're ready. We need to build our strength and establish secure lines of communication before making overtures." The Aruri leader agreed. "We will be discreet. For now, our people will provide technical expertise and intelligence. When the time comes, we will stand beside you." With that, the alliance was sealed. It was more than an agreement, it was a spark, a tiny flame that promised to ignite a rebellion across the galaxy. A race against time. Back on Novera, the pace of preparation reached a fever pitch. The alliance with the Aruri fueled a surge of innovation. Engineers worked tirelessly to integrate Aruri shielding with human propulsion, while the training academies adapted new strategies based on shared intelligence. In the underground shipyards, the Nemesis was nearing completion. Its sleek design was both beautiful and imposing, a testament to humanity's rebirth. Chief Engineer Raj Patel stood beside Admiral Helen Vega, marveling at the ship's progress. "She's more than a warship," Raj said, his voice filled with pride. "She's a symbol." Admiral Vega nodded, her expression somber. "Symbols are powerful. Let's make sure this one sends the right message." Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Rosie and her team worked on advanced weapons systems. One such project, the graviton bomb, was nearing its final testing phase. The weapon, capable of creating localized singularities, had the potential to level entire fleets. But it also raised moral questions. Amelia visited the lab, watching as the team demonstrated the bomb's capabilities in a simulation. The destructive power was breathtaking and terrifying. "This could turn the tide of the war," Elena said. "Or it could make us monsters," Amelia replied quietly. She left the lab with a heavy heart, determined to ensure humanity didn't lose its soul in its quest for survival. Hope in the stars. The alliance with the Aruri marked a turning point. For the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer alone. Novera buzzed with hope and purpose, its people driven by the knowledge that they were building something greater than themselves. On the eve of the Nemesis's launch, Amelia stood in the Hall of Memory, gazing at the holographic projection of Earth. The vibrant colors of the planet spun slowly, a reminder of what had been lost, and what was worth fighting for. As she turned to leave, Zorn approached, her face lit with determination. "The Aruri have sent a message," she said. "They've begun reaching out to other species. Word is spreading." Amelia smiled, a rare expression of hope breaking through her usual stoicism. "Then the galaxy is beginning to awaken." The shadows of vengeance were no longer just humanity's burden. They were becoming a force, a coalition, that would one day stand against the Galactic Council. Together, they would rewrite the future of the galaxy. The first strike. The galaxy shimmered with the light of distant stars as humanity prepared to reveal itself for the first time in 3 millennia. Beneath Novera's surface, a surge of activity pulsed through the underground city. Engineers finalized starships, recruits suited up in battle gear, and leaders gathered for final briefings. The air was charged with anticipation. The mission: strike a key Galactic Council outpost to send a message. This would not be a declaration of war, but a demonstration of humanity's precision, power, and presence. They would target infrastructure critical to the Council's operations, avoiding civilian casualties. Amelia Chen had chosen the outpost carefully, balancing maximum impact with minimal risk of discovery. As the Nemesis, humanity's flagship, prepared to launch, Amelia addressed her assembled team. "This is the beginning," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "For 3,000 years, we have endured in silence. Today, we remind the galaxy who we are. Strike swiftly. Strike decisively. But remember, our goal is not vengeance. It is justice." The fleet's vanguard. The Nemesis led a fleet of smaller stealth ships, each outfitted with the Aruri-enhanced technology developed in Novera's shipyards. The fleet moved like shadows through the void, undetectable to the Council's scanners. Captain Alexei Volkov commanded the fleet from the Nemesis, his grizzled demeanor masking the fiery determination beneath. "Approaching the target," reported Lieutenant Zoran Chen, her hand steady on the controls. The target was a massive relay station orbiting a barren moon. It served as a hub for Council communications and fleet coordination across 3 sectors. Disabling it would disrupt their operations without drawing immediate suspicion. "Deploy the scramblers," Alexei ordered. On his command, drones launched from the fleet, cloaked in invisibility as they latched onto the station's surface. Within moments, the station's communication channels fizzled to static. The Nemesis and its fleet moved in, taking out defensive satellites and automated turrets with pinpoint precision. The station's alarms blared, but by the time reinforcements were summoned, the fleet was already retreating into the safety of deep space. The message. As the fleet returned to Novera, the Council's leadership scrambled to understand what had happened. Reports of the attack described advanced technology unlike anything in their arsenal: shields that absorbed energy blasts, weapons that cut through reinforced alloys like paper. But most baffling was the single encrypted transmission left in the wake of the strike. The message was simple: humanity has returned. On Novera, the mood was jubilant. The operation had been an unqualified success. Engineers analyzed the data collected during the mission, identifying weaknesses in the Council's defense grid. Pilots shared tales of precision strikes and flawless execution. But in the midst of the celebration, Amelia remained cautious. "They'll retaliate," she warned her advisors. "This was just the beginning. We've shown them our strength, but we've also painted a target on our backs." The Council's reaction. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency session. The chambers, usually a place of order and decorum, buzzed with fear and confusion. Delegates from various species demanded answers. "How could this happen?" A reptilian delegate hissed. "Who possesses such technology? No one in the galaxy matches this description." The Council's chair, an imposing figure from the Keltrax race, silenced the room with a sharp gesture. "We will investigate. This is likely the work of rogue factions or remnants of a defeated empire. Nothing more." But within the Council's inner circle, whispers of humanity's return spread like wildfire. Centuries of propaganda had painted humans as extinct or irrelevant, but now the old fears resurfaced. The Council's military leaders began mobilizing fleets, determined to crush the threat before it grew. The risk of exposure. Back on Novera, the leaders of humanity's resurgence met to assess the fallout of their first strike. Reports from their intelligence network indicated heightened Council activity, including increased patrols and tighter security around critical assets. "We've bought ourselves time," Alexei said, his voice gruff. They're chasing shadows, trying to figure out who hit them. But it won't last. Amelia nodded. We need to use this window to strengthen our position. The Council is still unaware of our location, but that won't last forever. Zara Okoi chimed in. Our alliance with the Aruri is already bearing fruit. Their engineers have sent schematics for new cloaking technology. If we can implement it across all our ships, we'll maintain the element of surprise. Admiral Helen Vega leaned forward, her expression grim. We can't rely on stealth forever. Eventually, we'll need to confront them directly. Are we prepared for that? Amelia's gaze hardened. We will be. Rebellion spreads. The strike on the relay station had unintended consequences. News of the attack spread to subjugated worlds, whispered in underground resistance cells. On the planet Tynar, a group of rebels sabotaged a council factory, inspired by rumors of a powerful new ally. On Aruri-controlled worlds, workers began covertly building weapons, emboldened by humanity's resurgence. Amelia received reports of these uprisings with a mix of pride and concern. The rebellion was growing faster than expected, but it also risked drawing the Council's full attention before humanity was ready to face them head-on. We need to coordinate with the resistance movements, she said during a strategy meeting. Provide them with support while ensuring they don't act recklessly. If they move too soon, it could jeopardize everything. Hope on the horizon. As Novera buzzed with activity, Amelia found a rare moment of quiet in the Hall of Memory. She stood before the holographic Earth, her thoughts heavy with the responsibility she bore. The first strike had been a success, but the road ahead was fraught with danger. Humanity was no longer a forgotten relic of the past. They were a rising force, a beacon for the oppressed. Zoran joined her, standing silently by her side. Do you think they'll ever forgive us? She asked, her voice soft. The galaxy, I mean, for what we're about to do. Amelia placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Forgiveness isn't our goal, Zoran. Survival is. But if we can bring justice to those who've suffered, maybe, just maybe, we'll create a galaxy worth forgiving. Outside, the Nemesis loomed in the shipyard, its sleek frame a symbol of humanity's strength and determination. In the distance, new recruits trained tirelessly, their faces set with purpose. The first strike had been a beginning, a whisper in the dark. But soon, the galaxy would hear humanity's roar. Rebellion ignited. The aftermath of humanity's first strike reverberated across the galaxy like a stone dropped into still water. Whispers of their resurgence spread faster than the Galactic Council could suppress them. On subjugated worlds, resistance cells found renewed purpose, emboldened by the idea that the Council's iron grip could be challenged. In hidden corners of the galaxy, the oppressed began to rise, a spark among the subjugated. On the industrial world of Valora, a species of workers known as the Quarrens gathered in secret. Their scaled, amphibious forms gleamed under the low light of an abandoned factory. For centuries, the Quarrens had been forced to toil under the Council's rule, producing warships and weaponry. But now, murmurs of humanity's defiance had reached their ears. We've waited long enough, said Lokter, the leader of the Quarren resistance. His voice was low but firm. If the humans can strike the Council, so can we. The group nodded, their resolve steeled. Using the tools of their labor, they began sabotaging production lines, disrupting supply chains critical to the Council's fleet. Back on Novera, Amelia Chen received reports of these uprisings with mixed emotions. Each act of rebellion was a victory, but it also carried risk. The more visible these actions became, the closer the Council would come to uncovering the truth of humanity's involvement. We need to guide them, Amelia said during a strategy meeting. If they act without coordination, they'll burn out before we can build something sustainable. Captain Alexei Volkov nodded. We have the intelligence, the resources. Let's give them what they need to fight effectively. Building the network. The alliance with the Aruri had opened doors Amelia had not anticipated. Using their extensive networks, The Aruri resistance began acting as intermediaries, connecting humanity with other oppressed species. These species brought with them unique skills and technologies, weaving a web of rebellion across Council space. On Novera, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to adapt these contributions. Aruri shielding combined with Quarren material science created nearly impenetrable ship armor. Another species, the Martian, shared advanced communications technology, enabling secure coordination across light years. Dr. Zara Okoye oversaw these projects with relentless energy. "We're not just building weapons," she told her team. "We're building trust. Every piece of technology we share strengthens the bonds of this coalition." The Council strikes back. The Galactic Council, though weakened, was not blind to the rising tide of rebellion. Fleet movements increased, and suspected resistance cells were ruthlessly targeted. On the lush world of Krenos, Council forces bombarded entire cities, claiming they harbored insurgents. The message was clear: defy us, and you will suffer. Amelia watched these events unfold on a holographic map in her war room. The red markers representing Council strikes spread like a disease, consuming world after world. "They're trying to break morale," Admiral Helen Vega said, her voice tinged with anger. "Make examples of those who resist." Amelia clenched her fists, and they're buying time. They think fear will keep the galaxy in line while they regroup. Zoran Chen, standing beside her mother, chimed in. "Then we need to show them that fear won't work." The coalition takes shape. In response to the Council's brutality, Amelia called for a summit. Representatives from the Aruri, Quarrens, Marsen, and other species gathered aboard a specially outfitted diplomatic vessel in neutral space. It was a moment fraught with tension. Many of these species had been enemies before the Council's domination. Amelia stood before them, her voice steady but passionate. "The Council thrives on division. They keep us weak by keeping us apart. But together, we can achieve what none of us could alone. Humanity is not here to lead. We are here to stand with you." The room erupted into heated discussion. Old grudges flared, but the memory of the Council's oppression united them. After hours of negotiation, an agreement was reached. A coalition of free species united against the Galactic Council. Strength in unity. Back on Novera, the coalition's existence sparked a wave of renewed effort. The underground city buzzed with activity as resources poured in from allied worlds. Factories worked day and night, churning out advanced ships and weapons. Training simulations incorporated tactics shared by coalition members, creating a unified force capable of outmaneuvering the Council. Among the recruits was Zoran, who had become a symbol of hope for Novera's younger generation. Her leadership and courage inspired others to push themselves harder, knowing they were fighting for something greater than survival. As the coalition's forces grew, Amelia received a message from Loktar, the Quarren leader. "Your people lit the flame," he said. "Now it's our turn to keep it burning." The cost of rebellion. While victories mounted, the cost of rebellion became increasingly clear. Reports of Council retaliation grew more brutal, targeting not just resistance cells, but innocent civilians suspected of aiding them. Each attack weighed heavily on Amelia. One evening, she stood alone in the Hall of Memory, staring at the holographic Earth. The projection spun slowly, its vibrant colors a painful reminder of what had been lost. She whispered to the image, "Was this the price we had to pay?" Zoran joined her, her voice soft but firm. "We can't save everyone, Mother, but we can give them something to fight for." Amelia nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we'll make sure the Council knows this isn't just humanity's fight. It's the galaxy's." Hope on the horizon. The rebellion had grown beyond anything the Council could have anticipated. Across its territory, resistance movements struck at supply lines, dismantled factories, and sabotaged fleet operations. The Council, stretched thin, struggled to contain the chaos. On Novera, Amelia prepared for the next phase of their campaign. The Coalition's fleet, spearheaded by the Nemesis, stood ready. Their goal was no longer mere survival. It was to liberate the galaxy from tyranny. As the fleet mobilized, Amelia addressed the coalition's leaders. "We've come far, but the road ahead is long. The Council will not fall easily. But with every strike, every alliance, we weaken their hold. Together, we will create a future where no one has to live in fear." The fleet launched into the void, a united force bound by shared purpose. Humanity's first strike had been a whisper in the dark. Now, the coalition roared with the voices of countless species, rising together to challenge the galaxy's greatest power. The Reckoning. The coalition's fleet gathered in the void between stars, a constellation of ships from every corner of the galaxy. Their mission was clear: to strike at the heart of the Galactic Council's power. After years of preparation, countless acts of rebellion, and immeasurable sacrifice, the moment of reckoning had arrived. Aboard the Nemesis, Amelia Chen stood at the command center, her gaze fixed on the holographic projection of their target. Elveris Prime, the Council's central hub. It was a fortress world, protected by massive fleets, planetary shields, and automated defenses. Taking it would be no small feat, but it was necessary. "This isn't just an attack," Amelia addressed her crew and the coalition leaders over the secure channel. "This is a declaration. We are no longer shadows. We are the dawn that will break the Council's darkness, and we will not falter." The final push. The fleet moved in waves, each formation carrying out its meticulously planned role. The Nemesis spearheaded the assault, its advanced systems neutralizing long-range defenses. Stealth ships infiltrated the outer perimeter, disabling key satellites and cutting communication lines. The coalition's fighters swarmed like fireflies, overwhelming the Council's interceptors with sheer numbers and coordination. On the ground, resistance cells synchronized their efforts, rising up in cities and industrial hubs across Elveris Prime. The Council's forces, caught between the insurgents on the planet and the fleet above, struggled to maintain control. The battle for Elveris Prime. The skies over Elveris Prime lit up with explosions as the Coalition's fleet engaged the Council's armada. The Nemesis proved its worth, its shields absorbing attacks that would have crippled lesser ships. Admiral Helen Vega, commanding the Coalition fleet, directed the battle with precision. "Focus fire on their flagships," she ordered. "We take out their command structure, and the rest will fall." Meanwhile, Captain Alexei Volkov led a ground assault team, landing in the shadow of one of the Council's primary command centers. By his side was Lieutenant Zoran Chen, her rifle slung across her back, as she coordinated with resistance fighters. The team advanced through the labyrinthine streets of the capital city, their progress marked by fierce skirmishes. The Aruri resistance fighters proved invaluable, using their engineering skills to disable Council defenses and create paths for the Coalition forces. Amelia's decision. As the battle raged, Amelia monitored the situation from the Nemesis. Reports flooded in from every front: victories, losses, breakthroughs, and setbacks. One report stood out. The Council's leadership had retreated to a heavily fortified bunker deep beneath the capital. "We can't reach them with conventional forces," Admiral Vega said, her voice crackling over the comms. "We'd need weeks to break through their defenses." Amelia's mind raced. She knew the solution, but it came with a heavy cost. The graviton bomb, humanity's most devastating weapon, could collapse the bunker and end the Council's reign in a single strike. But it would also risk catastrophic damage to the city above. "Do we have another option?" Amelia asked, her voice quiet but firm. Dr. Elena Rossi, head of Advanced Weapons Research, replied, "Not one that guarantees success. If we hesitate, they'll regroup." Amelia took a deep breath. "Then we proceed, but evacuate as many civilians as possible." The strike. The Nemesis descended into the atmosphere, its cloaking field masking its presence until the last possible moment. The graviton bomb, encased in layers of protective shielding, was deployed with precision. The weapon fell silently, its trajectory guided by Phoenix's calculations.